Kikar, a fortunate member of the Caicaic species, had only stepped onto the galactic stage 50 years ago, yet they had swiftly earned a reputation for their piracy. Unlike many of his kin, who foolishly pursued peace and alliances, Kikar believed that, as inhabitants of a Class 8 death world, they were entitled to take what was rightfully theirs. That was precisely why he found himself in human territory. Upon his arrival, Kikar immediately recognized the potential for immense gain. Humans, with their obsession for peace, appeared to be frail and vulnerable. They lacked exoskeletons, had no natural defenses, and despite controlling over 3,500 stars, their vast empire made law enforcement in the outer reaches nearly impossible. Curious about potential competition, Kikar inquired about the criminal element among humans. He was thrilled to learn that only about 2% of the human population were criminals, and even fewer were pirates. This meant virtually no competition in human-dominated space. Kikar had recently raided a small human colony rich with technology. It turned out to be a research world, filled with scholars. He scoffed at the thought. Who needed scholars when one had claws and chitin armor? Despite the scholars' valiant defense, which resulted in a 15% loss of his raiding crew, Kikar dismissed the fallen as less capable than creatures from a paradise world. He hadn't even bothered to verify the origin of the scholars, assuming from their appearance and lack of defenses that they must hail from a paradise world. When Kikar spotted a massive cargo ship, he saw another golden opportunity. Setting an ambush, he used a subspace disruptor pulse to pull the vessel out of faster-than-light travel in a remote region of space, far from any stars. His boarding crew, comprising over 80 soldiers, prepared to take the ship. Strangely, they detected only one life form aboard, leading Kikar to believe the raid would be effortless. As his soldiers swept through the ship, they eventually found the lone human on the bridge, seated calmly. Kikar's boarding chief, a skilled combatant, but less so than Kikar, confronted the human. "Where are the goods, human?" he demanded. "Vendel Prime," the human replied in a low voice that sent an inexplicable chill through Kikar's exoskeleton. "What do you mean? Where did you hide your goods, worthless primate?" the chief shouted. "Vendel Prime. Were you on Vendel Prime?" the human repeated, his voice tinged with something unsettling that Kikar couldn't quite identify. It triggered a primal instinct within him, screaming to flee. Ignoring his instinct, Kikar listened as his chief, growing impatient, threatened the human. "I'm running out of patience, human." "But I have run out first," the human said, and the lights abruptly cut out. Gunfire erupted in the darkness. Bang, bang, bang. When the lights flickered back on, all 6 of Kikar's guards lay dead, their heads blown off. The human wielded a weapon far too small to pierce their exoskeletons, let alone decapitate them. "Run," Kikar commanded himself internally, but it was too late. One by one, his elite soldiers fell, their heads exploding from impossibly precise shots. Within 5 minutes, all communication with his men had ceased, replaced by static. Desperate, Kikar barked orders. "Prepare the crew and get me the enhanced units." "But Captain, you saw what that thing did," a subordinate protested. Kikar's blood ran cold. He had underestimated the humans, and now he faced the consequences of his arrogance. Captain Ilder barked, "Was that an order? We are 450 of the finest warriors from the Caicaic. We will not flee from a weak primate." His voice echoed through the command deck as his crew swiftly moved to their stations, ready to dock their vessel with the cargo ship. Ilder focused intently on the display screen, watching as the airlock of the opposing ship opened. A human in a black spacesuit, now wielding a significantly larger weapon than before, launched into the void. "That's reckless," he muttered, frustrated by the anticlimactic confrontation. "Mag boots," his subordinate explained, interrupting his thoughts. "What?" Ilder asked, puzzled. "Captain, that human is using magnetic boots." How audacious. As the realization dawned on him, it was too late. For the first time, Ilder felt a sensation foreign to his being, fear. As an apex predator on his planet, he had never anticipated experiencing such dread. The power briefly flickered, and then his subordinate reported, "The human is aboard, sir." Should I bring up the camera feed? Yes, now, Ilder commanded. The bridge was a flurry of activity as crew members informed their colleagues of the intruder's location and hid, utilizing the ship's camera system. Ilder watched, horrified, as the human advanced. If his species could shiver, Ilder's exoskeleton would have been trembling. The human fired a single shot, and one of his soldiers disintegrated into a purple mist and chunks. What kind of weapon is that? Ilder exclaimed. It looks like a projectile thrower, but that's impossible. It should bounce off our chitin plates easily. Analyzing the video and chemical data, it was evident. The human wielded a chemical projectile thrower with enough recoil to shatter their exoskeletons. This realization explained the deaths of the 40 Cacic on the planet. They weren't weak. They were outmatched by a hairless primate. And this human was a warrior. Ilder watched in terror as the human slaughtered crew member after crew member, soldier after soldier. Grenades exploded, poison gas melted his troops, and the human, now without a spacesuit, continued the massacre. This wasn't a mindless rage but a controlled, mechanical execution. The human always shot first, knew their positions, and anticipated their moves. He had hacked into their ship systems, manipulating cameras, doors, and gravity generators. Whenever they tried to block him, he countered effortlessly. His enhanced crew was no match. Each engagement ended in deadly precision, with the human reloading specialized ammunition to blow half-meter holes in their chests. Where is he heading now? Ilder demanded. Towards the bridge, came the reply. Prepare to shut down the main power and gravity generator, and ready the doors to open into space, Ilder ordered. In moments, the ship plunged into darkness, gravity ceased, and air vented. Good, we've rid ourselves of that monster, he said, though an instinct screamed at him to run or hide. He couldn't shake the unease until, clang! How is it still alive without a suit? Ilder yelled, get me the ship's weapons. I'm going to obliterate it. Clang, clang. The sound of magnetic boots drew closer. 20 seconds until power is restored, a crew member called out. Clang, clang. 15 seconds. The countdown continued. Clang, clang. Faster, you fools. Ilder roared. Clang, clang. The boots were nearly upon them. 5 seconds, someone shouted. Then, the noise changed. What was that? That didn't sound like boom. The ship trembled. The human, somehow able to hold his breath in space, had breached their final defenses. Just before the security field could engage and prevent more atmosphere from venting, most of Captain Vlaric's bridge crew were either already floating corpses in space or rapidly turning into a mist of blood and frozen chunks. Then it looked at me. At this point, I had accepted defeat and had closed my eyes, preparing to die. But death didn't come. Wake up, you filthy insect, a voice barked. I opened my eyes to see the human, armed and ready, glaring at me. Are you not going to kill me? I asked. Vendel Prime. What were you doing on Vendel Prime? The human demanded. I do not know where Vendel Prime is, I replied. Of course you don't, the human sneered. Let me refresh your memory. You found a habitable moon called Vendel Prime and raided a college there. We did visit a moon. We did visit a planet with scholars, I stammered. It was a moon, not a planet, and they weren't scholars. They were Deutons. You ugly insect killed my son. The human's fury was palpable. Suddenly, I, Kakar, started to regret the day I was born. That planet was too big to be a moon. Sure, it had lower gravity than the galactic norm, but not enough to be a moon, I protested. Oh really? Want to see what Earth gravity feels like? The human sneered, and suddenly I was pinned to the floor by my own weight. I struggled to breathe. This is only 90% of Earth's gravity. We can still go up by 10%. As the gravity increased again, my carapace began to crack. Just before I lost consciousness, the gravity returned to normal. Don't you dare die. I've got something worse planned for your crimes, the human snarled. You can't possibly come from a world with that much gravity, I managed to say. Yes, we do. Humans come from a Class 19 death world. My heart sank. 19 out of 20? Impossible, I thought. But my mind went back to those students who had killed my men by just kicking and punching them. How did you do all that? Humans are supposed to be peaceful. You barely have any criminal records in the Galactic Registry, I said. Those fools at Galactic Law, the human scoffed. If you ignore burglars and the occasional gang, we're more dangerous and organized than you think. Galactic law enforcement has nothing on human law enforcement. That's why we're so elusive. Even in their records, we leave not enough trace for them to see any human involvement. In human territory, we're in the registry, but I have a mobile fleet. It's hard to catch something when space is so vast. I realized this human was the leader of a criminal organization, the Black Fleet Mafia, somehow off the Galactic Registry's radar. I'm putting you in a stasis capsule, the human continued, which will simulate what you did to my son. Each real minute here will be a year in stasis. Enjoy your detention. Before I could try to flee or kill myself, I was knocked unconscious. 3 days later, UNO's police report 8,967 to 304. We have found and disabled the black hole bomb from the small craft using the code provided by the chief of the Black Fleet Mafia. We have returned the pirate to Kakar's custody and departed before they realized the treatment he had received from the Black Fleet. Considering what led to this event, I would have let him rot in there for at least 6 months. I refuse to take part in any way, shape, or form in the future diplomatic storm that will arise from this incident. End report.